There's some crashing out happening. Okay, there's some crashing out. There's a movie coming out called The Religion Business directed by a guy named Nathan. It is, I think, with Netflix.
Wow.
And for the record, I've reached out to both of these people. And long story short, a celebrity pastor, friend of the channel's, kind of crashed out on Nathan in this movie after they crashed out on him.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this the guy you met with?
I did talk to Nathan for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see this because let me just say this. I think there are general observation Nathan has about the religion business that I think he is right to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think he went after the wrong one.
Really?
In more ways than one.
Oh, wow.
In more ways than one. From my understanding is Nathan, who, by the way, I invited on the channel. I've invited both of these people on the channel to debate this if they want to debate this. Nathan apparently showed up to this dude's church on a Sunday with a camera crew. So he showed up to his church, allegedly, with a camera and demanded to see all of their finances.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, for the record, if you show up to Rhythm Church doing that, we have a book in the lobby with all of our finances.
Yeah.
Available to anybody. Now, you're not going to know what the senior pastor makes.
We also have a security team.
Yeah. We also have a security team. And I'm still going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
I'm going to be annoyed if you show up on a Sunday morning with a camera crew and demand to see the church. Even the church's finances, they're all in the lobby. The book is out. There's a book with all the spending, everything that came in, everything that went out. I would still be pissed off as just a member, like for you to show up with that degree of intensity.
Yeah.
Well, he did that to the wrong pastor.
Come on.
And let me just say, the way Russell B. Johnson went nuclear on him is not the way I would have handled it. And it may not be the way a pastor should have handled it. But as a man.
Entertaining nonetheless.
As a man. It's entertaining nonetheless.
All right.
So we're going to get into some of the problems that are being pointed out. We're going to get into some of the responses back and forth. And ultimately, I'm trying to get these two together. I want to get these two together. Wonderful. I've been trying to have Nathan on. There's a gang of things me and Nathan disagree on, but I do think he has some valid critique. There's a specific critique that he pointed out to me when we were on the phone together that I was like, oh, that's fair.
Okay.
That's a fair critique. So if you guys don't know who Russell B. Johnson is, highly passionate, background in politics, runs Pursuit Church. I got friends that go to Pursuit Church. I know Russell. I don't know him super well, but I know him well enough. And man, he's a firecracker. He is what the kids will call based at times. I've publicly disagreed with him on some of his affiliations with Benny Hinn. So we have some different lines about who we will and won't affiliate with.
Yep.
So we do have some theological disagreements, but I also know Russell fairly well.
Brought us greatest hits such as Antifa raids church worship day in Seattle.
Yes. He has that dog in him. Like he's going to turn up. If he feels like he has that fight or flight, he's going to fight.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just his temperament. He's in the Pacific Northwest, different culture. You know what I mean? Different issues, different problems, so on and so forth. So he pinned this. This was yesterday, but he pinned this. And he so Timu Judas is Nathan from the director, creator of The Religion Business. Oh. And he kind of just went nuclear on him.
He pinned it to his profile.
All right. Now, again, there's aspects that I wouldn't have done this as pastor, as a leader. However, I understand. And I think that there is some validity on both sides. Okay. And I'm not trying to play the middle and be nuanced for the sake of being nuanced. But I think there's some validity to both of these critiques. Okay. So let's pull it up. We'll go over it.
This man got all the.
Yeah, he trolls, bro. He pokes, he trolls. He again, I'm chalking it up to like, his context is different, his background is different. Yeah. He's in the Pacific Northwest. Anybody that knows anything about Seattle knows that it is like one of the least church places in the world. There's a lot of actual persecution there against churches. I'm comfortable saying that. Yeah. When they do stuff, Antifa shows up and wiles out. Crazy. And they poke. They're okay with poking. And I'm not mad at them, but sometimes you got to poke. Okay, so let's pull up. Okay, so he says, Religion Business tried to roast me for a Rolex. Okay. What could be done with $16,000 is what it says. Religion Business tried to roast me for a Rolex, and I can't say.
Here's my response.
Okay, so let me just say this. I'm not a watch guy. I'm not a Rolex guy. These sorts of situations make me never want to wear a Rolex, even if my situation was similar.
Yeah.
And when you start finding out that sometimes everything isn't as it appears, that you start seeing that, maybe you don't want to always pick a fight.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't want to pick a fight if you're potentially throwing stones from a glass house. Which is seemingly what's going on with Nate. Okay. So Russ is wearing a Rolex.
Looks nice.
It's a $16,000 Rolex. There's actually a channel called like Watch Busters or Rolex Pastors and it's like sneakers and preachers, but like for watches.
Yeah.
And so like they tried to put my buddy Jonathan Pokluda on there only to discover, people tried to send him Jonathan Pokluda's watch only to discover that he was wearing like $100 G-Shock. He just had it modded with a specific kit. And then they have to go up and say, guys, Jonathan's not wearing a fancy watch. I'm not going to go to that website right now. So this is Russ's response to that. So he says, religion business tried to roast me for owning a Rolex that I got as a gift for my wedding anniversary. So that's point one. You don't know where people get their nice stuff from.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just get gifted stuff that they are, then he's not going out and buying a Rolex. Somebody gifted him.
Yeah. Watches are notoriously known for being gifts too.
Yes.
So it's kind of ballsy to assume that this person bought a watch.
Yes. And watches also retain value. So like a lot of people have watch collections because they are, I think they perform better than like the S&P 500 in terms of retaining their value.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard that from somebody. I don't remember who.
That sounds
and maybe I'm wrong on that.
Crazy.
Yeah. They failed to do an update post when I gave it away.
Come on.
They also failed to make a post about the house we sold to start the church. The pest control job for $15 an hour that I had for 3 years when Pursuit couldn't afford to pay me. Now, he shared all this in our podcast together. He worked pest control. Russ, you could disagree with him all you want. He
hustled.
Suffered to build Pursuit Church. He really laid it all down.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is the guy you want to go after. You could have theological disagreements with him about the tithe. You could have theological disagreements with him about affiliation with Benny Hinn.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the guy you want to go after with his financial disclosures, right? The car we gave away, the medical debt we paid off, the 3 different times we emptied our personal accounts to sow into the building fund, which for the record, sometimes people don't know this. I know multiple lead pastors who are the #1 givers to their church.
Whoa.
That's something else that doesn't get talked about.
That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, like you want to dunk on the pastor, you want to say this, you want to say that. I know multiple lead pastors of multiple size churches that they are the single biggest giver of their church.
That's crazy.
Right. So that's not uncommon. I don't think it's uncommon for the pastor to go above and beyond and lead the charge in giving. The 3 times we emptied our personal bank account into the building fund, the wedding ring I gave away, the 7 times in the last 24 months I paid for people to go to rehab, the people who lived in our house for free when they couldn't afford rent, the $1.5 million Pursuit gave to help the Jewish people in Israel, the $100K in Pursuit gave to support another pastor building fund, the medical debt we paid off, school lunch debt we paid off, interesting, the missionaries we support. It's no different than Judas criticizing Mary of Bethany for daring to pour costly perfume on the feet of Jesus. It just escalates. Judas criticized Mary in an effort to appear altruistic. It backfired. It was fake moral outrage for the sake of his image. Because the guy was like, $44 a month you could sponsor a kid.
Yeah.
How many kids could that $16,000 watch sponsor, right?
Yep.
Which is kind of a parallel to,
Judas being mad about the perfume. Yeah, that's a good point.
The same thing is true today. People who are not generous, only looking to improve their own salvation. This is the question. I get into a lot of people ask me about the tithe, all that kind of stuff. I don't see the tithe as a law. I'd say as a principle. I think it's great to figure out how to live on 80, give 10, save 10. But the people who always say, well, it sounds like your church preaches a tithe, which we don't, not as law anyway. We preach it as a principle.
Yeah.
I always find it funny that when I ask those people, how much do you give? Do you give regularly?
Well, I just...
They don't give monthly. They don't budget to give, right? Almost every time. Do you give regularly? How much do you give? Never did those people say, yeah, we give 25% every month.
Yeah.
It's always like, well, we kind of give when we kind of feel like it.
So it's not like a real problem they have. It's just the conviction they're trying to, it's just the Holy Spirit convicting them that they're trying to rub off as like, I don't like that teaching.
Yeah. And again, like I think to say, like to force people on or like, coerce people on forced incomes, coerce people that are in debt, coerce people that are to like, if you don't tithe, God is going to curse you.
Yeah, it's bad.
Right? That's unhelpful. But to say, hey, this is a good standard to shoot for.
Yeah. If you want the AC fixed.
Yeah. If
you want new carpet in the kids' room.
Yeah.
If you want new toys.
And for the record, very few people, like a small percentage of Christians tithe. Like I think less than 7%. So no one's really doing it anyway.
Yeah. It's not like this is a financial epidemic in the church.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. No, there are churches that preach it harder. Prosperity churches preach it harder. Anyway, the same should say people who are not generous, only looking to improve their own self-image, operate with false outrage and attempt to chase clout. Guess what? I'm gonna buy another Rolex, probably end up giving that away as well, and I ain't apologizing. I don't need the approval of Judas to live a generous life. So that's like the Temu Judas.
This is the beginning of the crash out a little bit.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the crash out. He kind of crash out. Now here is Tauren Wells. This I don't know. So he comments this on the dude's Instagram. Y'all donate all the proceeds of the series to charity or Christian causes. Since, of course, the revenue, if there is any, would be generated from the business of exploiting churches, pastors, and religious organizations. You two would be profiting from the church, essentially. Thought, maybe the sequel of this doc could be y'all investigating folks like yourselves and other YouTubers who profit off of platforms they build merely on the critique of other ministries. I'm trying to find
where this ministry is.
A part of the fivefold builds a church, and I don't see a category for it. Now, here's the thing with this comment. I think that's a fair critique. It's always funny when people have came after me for making marketing advice for Christian rappers 5-10 years ago, trying to help Christian creators monetize their audience.
Yeah.
And then they're mad at me for selling merch and having a Patreon. And then they turn around and in the same video sometimes promote their Patreon.
Oh my God.
And highlight their own merch.
They're put mine's a ministry and it's for a good cause.
Yeah.
Mine's for God.
Mine's good for God. So I do think there's something to that.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's important to distinguish that this is a filmmaker who is doing an investigative piece.
He found a subject matter.
That he finds interesting. And therefore, it's not quite the same as a pastor who may or may not be buying $16,000 watches from a pastoral salary.
Fair.
Not the same thing. So I think this kind of falls apart a little bit on Tauren's part, but I kind of understand the principle. Like I think there's a categorical difference there.
Yeah.
People who aren't generous have no theological concept for blessing. It irritates religion business to end that someone else could be blessed in any way that they don't personally approve of. Which again, if he's talking about, hey, I am blessed in that someone gifted me a Rolex.
Yeah.
Right. Or, hey, I went and wrote a book. I went and did a startup. I flipped houses on the side. I did something on the side. And therefore, I'm able to have this fill in a blank, nice materialistic thing.
Yeah.
Right. A bit different than like the pastor buying himself a Rolex from his salary that comes from the giving.
Yeah. Okay.
A bit different. Now, again, I think the issue is many people ignore how often those pastors do have other revenue streams.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Some of the biggest...
Can't really be mad if they wrote a best-selling book that's crushing.
Yeah, you know? or I know someone that wrote multiple best-selling books and has side businesses. Yeah. They got other ventures that they've started prior to being in ministry. Right? Like when people are high performers and they build big churches, that's not by accident. It's because they understand how things work and usually are successful in other areas, and they decide to take pay cuts in the world to go and serve in the church. Yeah. And they often still have ventures that are moving. I'm not speaking this for us. I'm just thinking people I personally know that were amazing salespeople in the world, crushing it, making multiple six figures. Yeah. And then they decide to go, and then some of that residually is still flowing into them, right? That's different than like the pastor who all he does is pastor and he has a $10 million home. Shout out John MacArthur. Anyway.
That was good.
Before you judge the lifestyle of someone you see preaching behind a pulpit, consider for a moment that you will likely have zero idea about what they've sacrificed behind the scenes. God bless my life. I am not poor. I do not apologize for being not poor, and God's yet done blessing me. I believe this is the result of financial obedience to tithe. So again, this is where he would preach more of a tithe law, it sounds like, where we may or may not disagree on some of the minutia of it, right? Give to the poor and give above and beyond the tithe and offerings. What obedience has positioned my life in favor. I live in a nice house. I drive a Model 3 Tesla, thinking about trading it for the Cybertruck, and I used to own a Rolex. And I'm not apologizing to internet trolls who don't attend local churches, don't affirm the authority of Scripture, and fail to understand the witness of church history. I don't know about that witness of church history bit. I think there's quite a few folks in church history that would generally not prosperous, though if you look in the iconography and the art and the marble and all that beautiful the beauty stuff, the churches have also been valuable means. You know?
Yep, 100%.
This is where for some of you don't apologize to Judas for being generous or getting blessed. You don't owe the internet an explanation for the cost of your seed or the size of your harvest. Not only am I not apologizing for being blessed, I am publicly celebrating the fact that 10 years ago I had nothing because I had given everything, quite literally, away to build the church. And 10 years later, I own a nice house. I drive a nice car. I send my kids to private school, and I have no plans on stopping. I will give more away this year than I ever have, and I will receive more this year than I ever have, and I ain't sorry about it.
He's standing on business.
Standing on business. You got to respect it. This is
where it
hilarious.
starts to crash out too.
You know what? I just decided I do have time today. And by the way, yes, this is first class, and yes, this is my backpack, the Louis Vuitton. Now again, these are the things that watches, Louis Vuitton, bags. It's just.
Aesthetically, it's not even like my favorite
it's
thing.
Just I don't think it's the juice is worth the squeeze.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. Now, I will say this.
A leather bag.
A leather Louis
that just didn't have the logos on it would be just as fire.
Just as fire. Which is see I think psychologically
could cost more.
Psychologically, when you're talking about quiet wealth, people who are really wealthy don't flaunt their wealth.
Yes.
In bags and designer stuff and stuff like that. Now maybe someone gifted him that bag. This is one thing I will say, and this will get me in trouble. And maybe the religion business will clip this.
There we go.
I am a Delta Elite Diamond member.
Okay. The airline, not the fraternity.
Yeah. So whenever I fly anywhere, I tend to fly Delta. I book Delta Preferred. And I'd say 95% of my flights get upgraded to first class if I'm traveling by myself. So.
You said they get upgraded. You mean you upgrade them?
No. No. This is what people don't know.
Oh.
What people don't know is once you reach a certain status using Delta or any airline,
they just hook it up.
Almost every flight gets upgraded when you're a Diamond Medallion member. And so the majority of the expenses get put on the Delta Amex. They get paid off every month. And then when I fly, it's usually upgraded to first class. I don't upgrade myself. I don't pay extra. I don't book because it's not really worth it. Like if you're flying somewhere and it's $400 versus $2,000, I don't think that's worth it. But if you're paying $400,
like this is the difference in first class. Like he's a tall dude.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of leg room. But it's still like it's not like one of those pods that you're like falling back in and sleeping in.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I've had those as well.
Nice.
I've had like flying to Atlanta.
I've always wanted to do one of those.
And it's like it fully reclines into a bed.
That's fire.
That's happened once. But so like if you travel a lot, this is nice. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're like an above average dude.
Yeah.
Size dude.
Height.
Yeah, height. So anyway, but people might see me in first class. Someone might see me in first class and think, Ruslan paid $2,000 for this flight. How dare him?
Yeah.
Not understanding that I actually didn't pay that. I paid Avis Delta Preferred, which is maybe $50 more, and then I always get upgraded.
Come on.
You know? So anyway.
So this is the $43 a month.
Yeah.
Religious business was like.
And this is silly.
You could sponsor 31 kids for a year.
This is silly. This is where I think the religion business, this is where I think they just picked the wrong one. Like Russ don't care.
Profits and Watches. Is that the name of
Profits and Watches, yeah. I think this is silly. I think like $43, because you should have asked, you could have asked, or at the least like assuming that Russ is just flaunting his wealth and buying expensive stuff. You just don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. It's also pretty obnoxious to like find the virtue signaling nonprofit and then divide somebody else's assets into how many kids that could support. That's just like annoying behavior. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, we have to come to so many conclusions to even concede that. And then it's also like, are you sponsoring 31 kids a year with 16? I assume you make more than $16,000. So maybe you have $16,000 you can, you know what I'm saying? It's like that whole like, all right.
And just a heads up, it's about to get,
oh my goodness, for real?
Explicit.
It's about to get weird. So yeah, I'm with him. Now this is where it gets weird.
Oh.
Chicks dig gay guys.
Is this Nathan's?
Yeah. So Nathan, the filmmaker behind this religion business, put this out, a comedy set in the world of two pickup artists that is centered on trouble they get into, the lies they tell. Nathan is the filmmaker behind the religion business documentary. His illustrious career has included directing other quality films like Chicks Dig Gay Guys. And this is where it gets dark. Receiving a great rating of MA plus 15 for strong sexual references. Nathan must have, no, this is where he gets a little petty. I don't think he needed to go here. This is where he gets a little petty. Nate must have forgot scrub his Instagram. He's shooting on a red camera, right? So he's just kind of,
he's just poking.
Right? But this is where it gets weird. Chicks Dig Gay Guys movie. Hey Nathan, is that the same camera you use to film graphic scenes in your award-winning chicks dig gay guys. A woman takes off her clothes for two men, expecting threesome, her bra. And so this is the IMB explanation of all this. Keep going. Hey, Nathan, found a review of your film. Just wondering which spiritual leader in your life signed off on you directing and writing a film with this type of content. I noticed you're really concerned with ethics in a church. Can you explain to me the ethical value of a man has sex with two women, their breast visibly convincing them to have, the A word, just asking questions.
Just asking. Okay. It's kind of cooking here.
While my wife and I were directing a church, you were directing a film about a dude who pretends to be a homosexual so he can, without proper consent, violate women in his life. Just wondering how many orphans starved in Africa while you were making a smut film.
Okay. I'm with Russell B. Johnson on this.
Huh?
I mean, money goes into production.
Yep.
If there's anything that annoys us more about old media, it's the fact of how much money goes into this stuff and time. And when there's a 1-to-1 correlation of the same year, Russell B. Johnson was working $15,000 an hour, pest control to start a church.
Yep.
You're making a smut film.
Yep.
That's dark.
Now, here's how Nate fixes this. He repents of ever making this movie. He denounces this movie. He apologizes for this movie. That's the only Nate. I don't know.
He didn't do that yet.
He has not done that, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Nate is not a leader in the church. He's not a nonprofit.
Ugh.
But Nate, you've claimed to be a Christian. On the phone, you when we spoke, you presented yourself as a Christian, as a solid Christian who's concerned about the church.
Yeah.
You need to denounce this film. You need to repent of this and publicly say, hey guys, this is before I was following Jesus. I repented. Or hey, I went through a season. Maybe I think Nate grew up Christian and then kind of fell away from the faith. This was in a season where I fell away from the faith. And as I was coming back to the faith, this is why the religion business mattered to me, right? Okay, but he presented himself when we were on the phone as like, man, listen, I really studied the tithe and I understand all the historical context and all the Bible. And maybe that's true, but if you're proclaiming to be a Christian, making a movie because you're concerned about, Nathan is the director of this movie. If you're proclaiming to be a Christian and you put out this movie and you're putting out this religion business because you want to protect the church, you need to repent of the stuff in your past life. This would be no different than if Cardi B all of a sudden became a Christian. She would have to renounce all the vagina rap she made. You would have to renounce all that. You'd have to, it was poison, right?
The IMDb says it's based on a true story.
Yeah, and this is where it gets even darker, right? And so then, for all my friends who heard, how much would it cost to buy tags to get? So he just kind of goes over I mean, it's all valid points in hindsight of the accusatory. You could sponsor 31 kids. And again, Nathan could come out and just say, hey, this was in my past life.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't believe this anymore. And I'm going to and this is why I'm going a different direction. You know, he could easily do that, and I hope he does.
Russell B. Johnson got the price check on all this man's hunting gear.
Yeah, he's petty enough to do this. Hey Nathan, I've never been a Dodge guy, so he's just going over everything, like his cars, and he just kind of he puts devil horns on him. This is like. Had someone email. Now this is interesting, and this is where I empathize with Russ. Had someone send an email stating they were leaving the church because I had the audacity to pull up on Sunday in a Model 3, a mid-tier sedan that came with a tax credit. Apparently, I was flaunting my prosperity wealth. That's crazy.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that the model. If you don't know anything about Teslas. You think all Teslas are like $100,000 and that they're like super nice luxury cars. The Model 3 is competitively priced with almost every single vehicle on the market today that people with regular incomes are going into massive debt for. So like, I mean, like, what is it? I'm not living small to appease people who feel insecure with a pastor who dares to drive a $40,000 sedan. Yeah, so the $40,000, I know they go down to 30. You get them used. It can be like 20, 25. Like it's kind of crazy to be upset at a Model 3, but this
is silly.
Yeah, they're very luxury looking cars.
This is with some of the. So this is the thing. Like Nathan may not be. He may not think all pastors are like this. He may not think all pastors are stealing from the pulpit. Yeah. But what you practice in moderation, your audience will practice in excess. So I think this is like when you're not presenting a nuanced view of church finances.
Yeah,
and you go, "Hey, pastor bad."
Yeah.
Nice watch bad, nice car bad. You don't understand that like this is a standard car.
Yeah.
Like this is not crazy.
Car prices in the United States are extremely high. And we only import pretty much luxury cars at this point. So like there are trucks created by like Toyota that are $10,000 overseas, and those models just don't make it over here because there's not a market for it.
Right.
So I'm not saying that $30,000 isn't a lot of money. What I'm saying is that it's pretty standard for like you drive into a Vons parking lot, a grocery store parking lot, and you park. You're very likely to park next to another vehicle that costs $30,000 to $80,000. Park next to a Ford F-150, an F-150 Raptor, $80,000 truck right there. Like this is not parking lots in the United States are expensive, and so this is actually very normally mid-price, mid-range vehicle.
But what I'm saying is I understand why Russ crashed out on him.
Oh, 100%.
When you read this and you go, someone left your church because you're driving a $40,000 car.
Yeah.
I get why he, like, all of this was probably pent up.
Yeah.
And he crashed out on Nate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And this Nate pulled up with the camera at his church, right?
Allegedly. Yeah. Allegedly, Nate pulled up with a camera crew at his church and demanded to see their finances.
That's pretty annoying.
And then he says Nate's selling church. He said, by the way, the merch sucks.
Greta Thunberg has better fashion sense.
He's roasting his podcast. He said his podcast only got 89 listens. Keep going. These are the same dudes who flew on a plane, probably first class, to show up at my church uninvited to try and conduct an ambush-style interview in the lobby, probably with red digital cinema cameras on a Sunday morning. They proceeded to demand see our financials while sticking their cameras in the faces of folks who were just trying to attend a Sunday morning gathering, insinuating that because we wouldn't grant their team immediate access to our financials, that somehow we had something to hide. Enemies of our church who find moral superiority while having dumpster fire personal lives don't get a pass from me. Sorry, not sorry. This is where I'm like, yeah, if what happened, they showed up unannounced with the camera crew to a Sunday morning gathering, it's a violation. It's a violation. And so I think Nathan responded to this, by the way.
You gotta have quite the audacity and comfortability and maybe even a squeaky clean life to be the heresy hunter guy.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
and unfortunately, Nathan is probably a newer believer, probably recently came back to the faith.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he's positioning himself as a pastor or a leader. He's doing what he thinks is like some sort of investigative journalism. But here's the thing. This is going to be on Netflix. This is going to be a big thing. Yep. This is going to make more people view the church in a negative light. And Nathan's conclusions are pretty radical. Like his conclusions are radical. His conclusions are churches should lose their nonprofit status.
Whoa.
His conclusions are pastors should have to fully disclose their income.
Okay.
Which I think there's something where you can share what the top income is at your church. Yeah. Now, I don't want the people that fellowship weekly with Pastor Chris Brown to know exactly how much he makes. For the broke college student that's living with his mom, for the lady that's on a fixed income, how is that healthy or helpful? It's different when someone's running a nonprofit or someone's an NBA player.
Yeah.
But I think most people can see what your church spends on their staffing.
Yeah, if you disclose incomes, it's only relative to the person viewing it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be someone that makes $15,000 a year that's going to see that income and be like, 150? That's insane.
Yeah.
Now there's going to be someone that makes 170 and be like, wow, we really underpay our pastors.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Remove the tithe conversation. Here's the thing that just makes people uncomfortable. 1 Timothy 5. You know, everyone's like, the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
That's in 1 Timothy 6. 1 Timothy 5. You know what it says about what a good elder overseer of a church should earn?
I don't remember the specifics.
A double portion.
Oh, a double portion. I love that language.
So when I spoke, hopefully he doesn't mind me saying this. When I spoke to Church Disrupted podcast, the Spiritual Abuse Institute, the people that are running this stuff, even he says like, hey, what I would be comfortable with is if the average household in a county, San Diego, average income for a home is $100,000.
Yeah.
He's like, I will be fine with a double portion. A pastor can make up to $200,000.
That's very reasonable.
How prevalent is this? I don't know. Nathan thinks to assume that it's the vast majority of churches are fumbling and messing up finances. He wants them to lose their non status and fully disclose what every single person makes on staff.
Yeah.
I think that's extreme. I think that's way too extreme because there is a lot that comes with the folks who get a housing allowance, that do suffer, that do struggle. Yeah. And I think the majority of people in ministry are struggling. Yeah. I don't think everyone's just swimming in money like Mr. Burns.
If you take away the nonprofit status, all of the issues you think are there will definitely be there and at a way greater scale in every single church.
Yep.
You're going to see every single church have merch with limited time sales. You're like when you walk into the lobby,
they're gonna be doing their drops.
This collection disappears.
Yep. You're gonna see more ads on their podcasts and their sermons.
Yes, you're like, hey guys, thank you for coming. This Sunday is sponsored by Dollar Shave Club. Keep it nice and clean.
Okay, hopefully it doesn't go that bad.
But what I'm saying is that if you take away nonprofit status and now they have all this increased overhead, because it's a lot of increased overhead having to pay all these additional taxes and not having the clergy stuff and all this whatever, like that's gonna have to be made up somewhere. And I don't think the church would actually become that. Mm-hmm. But I think what would happen is that some people would get desperate enough to do that. And then a lot of other people would just be like, look, guys, church in the United States is not cheap anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't become that. Basically, Nate responded and apparently didn't see any of this. I don't know if this was intentionally hid from him or what, but Nate responded and basically said, hey, we've been trying to reach you. Let's do a debate on the tithe. I don't think that's what this conversation's about.
Yeah, I don't think the debate is about the
I think the conversation is about, in my opinion, how prevalent is this? Now, to Nate's credit, to defend Nate has said that out of the whatever amount that's raised, I want to say like 100 million a year goes missing and unaccounted for within the evangelical revenue streams that come in.
And is this the fair point you were talking about?
This is a fair point.
Okay.
100 million.
That's a lot.
Goes missing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
If that's true,
that's a lot of vacations.
I think it's okay to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And I'm sure Russ would be willing to debate him on the tithe or whatever. I think that'd actually be a good conversation because I haven't seen any, I looked it up. I didn't see any debates on the tithe.
Yeah. And out of the 100 million, how much of that is like the big prosperity churches that we already know are sus?
Yes. So there is some validity to what Nate is talking about. My question would be, Nate, your conclusions are too radical, in my opinion, right? And it sets the precedent and the taste in people's mouth that now they're going to be hyper skeptical of every church and every pastor, right? When you go to Rhythm, all of our finances are disclosed in a nice book that anyone can walk up and grab at any time.
The design team crushed it.
The design team crushed it. Nice. But if you pulled up with a camera crew, there would be a problem. Mm-hmm. There would still be a problem. Like if these are actually your methods, you're out of pocket. Yeah. You're out of pocket and you're out of order. But I think there's a ton of pastors that are doing a great job. And to Nate's credit, like when I spoke to him on the phone, it's a while ago, we've been trying to get him on the channel. I don't know what, he kind of went dark on me. He was like, hey, the guys you're around are kind of like the gold standard. And I think he basically told me, like, I think you're naive to how good your community is.
That's what Church Disrupted said.
This is what this is. Because we're in healthy church circles. Yeah. We're in circles where there is financial transparency. Not to the letter, not to the dollar amount of what every single staff member makes, but generally speaking, you know what goes towards staffing, you know how these things are spent, right? Yep. And so I think Nate and Russ should have a conversation. I don't know if the debate is around the tithe. I think the debate is around Nate's presuppositions that perhaps he would argue are theological. But when you're looking at 1 Corinthians 9, Paul is talking about compensation for pastors and elders. Come on. Right? Don't we have the right to take a believing wife along with us, as do the other apostles and the Lord's brothers and sisters and Cephas? So Paul's saying, hey, we have the right to take a wife with us on the road. Yeah. Oddly enough, Cephas is Peter. Peter was the first pope. Peter, as the first pope, is married. According to Catholics, was married and had his wife traveling with him. That's funny. Shout out to the Catholics. Yeah. But let's keep going. Or is it only I and Barnabas who lack to not work for a living? So Paul's saying, hey, this is the exception to the rule. The fact that I'm a tent maker, why is it just me and Barnabas that got to pay our own way? Yeah. He's rebuking them, right? Yeah. Who serves as a soldier at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard and does not eat its grapes? Who tends a flock and does not drink the milk? Do I say this merely on human authority? Doesn't the law say the same thing? For it is written in the law, do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain. So what is he saying? They would have these oxen work the fields, and if you were really, really stingy, you would muzzle the ox so that it couldn't even eat the leftover grains. Dang, that's right? Dirty. And he's like the law is against this. Yeah. Right? Is it about oxen that God is concerned? Surely he has this for us, doesn't he? Yes, this is written for us, because whoever plows and threshes should be able to do so in the hopes of sharing in the harvest. If we have sown spiritual seed among you, is it too much if we reap a material harvest from you? So let's go to our trusty Logos Bible software, which, by the way, is a friend of the channel.
Sarikikos.
That's so satisfying to say.
This is a physical, human, even fleshly blessing that you're reaping.
Yeah.
Right? Look at these words that even connect it. So Paul, I mean, this is crazy. This is worldly and sinful. Right?
Whoa.
This is connecting it to the flesh. That's how the word can also be used, right? But it's really just about material blessings.
Yeah.
Right? And then in the Logos, by the way, they're giving away a 60-day free trial to all you guys, and now it's only like $12 a month if you want to start it. Before, it used to only be for pastors. And this word seems to only be used in the context of 1 Corinthians 9, 11. And so, yeah, you're dealing with, if we have sown a spiritual seed among you, is it too much if we reap a material harvest from you? If others have this right to support from you, shouldn't we have it all the more? But we did not use this right. On the contrary, we put up with anything rather than hinder the gospel of Christ. So what people will do is they'll take this exception to the rule.
Yep.
And they'll say, pastors need to work a job. Pastors can't own a home. Pastors can't have a $40,000 car. Pastors can't wear the Rolex that was gifted to them by someone that was perhaps really wealthy and wanted to bless them.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. That's Paul is saying, hey, I did this, and that's the exception to the rule. That's not the standard, right?
Hello. Yeah.
And by the way, I'm saying this not as I'm not on staff at anywhere.
Yeah,
this is not a ministry, right? This is not a ministry. Yeah. We don't have a
we do have limited time sales.
Yeah, we do limited time sales, and we don't collect offerings. We don't do nonprofit donations.
We just make cool stuff.
Yeah, and if you don't believe me on this, 1 Timothy 5:17, the elder who directs the affairs of the church well are worthy of double honor, especially those whose work is preaching and teaching. Same reference.
Yeah.
Do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain, and the worker deserves his wages. Do not entertain an accusation against an elder unless it is brought by 2 or 3 witnesses. So, you don't believe me on this? Ruslan is too prosperity gospel leaning. Ruslan's too charitable to his pastor friends. Mike Winger said this is about the compensation for a pastor in a local church.
Yeah.
Mike Winger, who's doing investigating journalists on all these crazy charismatic churches, right? Calvary Chapel. Mike Winger is saying, hey, this is about a salary.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean a pastor should only care about the salary and should only follow salaries and opportunities. But a good elder overseer, a good lead pastor who is preaching the word should be compensated well.
Mm-hmm.
Well is going to be relative to where you live.
Yeah.
In Southern California, well
is a lot.
Yeah.
Well is
$200K a year.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Right? That would be if we're talking double portion.
Yep.
Double portion.
I think that's a great framework that Church Disrupted mentioned.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. Because if you do price it out, it's like, okay, that's what it would be for a family.
Yeah, and by the way, that's the only way my pastor could ever buy a house in Southern California.
Yeah.
We need to bump his pay.
Yeah.
Which I'm all for.
Super.
I would love for him to make that.
Yeah.
He's not, unfortunately. Yep. Right? And so so I think there's so much here. I think there's so much nuance here. I am hoping to eventually talk to Nate in person. I think these are good conversations. I actually don't think this is about the tithe. I really don't think this is about a tithe.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is about your presuppositions about how finances are handled in the church and how prevalent is this. And I think that there's a few bad apples that are doing most of the waste. And then there's a lot of good churches that are struggling, a lot of pastors that are struggling that we don't really see or hear about. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. If you liked it, then hit the like button. If you liked it a lot and have a thought to share, leave a comment. If you are listening to this on the podcast app, make sure to leave a review, and you could even leave a comment over there. And if you want to watch another video that is recommended just for you, hit this video over here. Let me know if they nailed it. Also, you can partner with us monthly, which helps us out a lot in our monthly community, get access to early drops and all that kind of good stuff over here. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.